sometimes fans forget that athletes are people too, and they go through the same mental hurdles that we all do on a daily basis. But more so than ever, Ryan, the bubble, 65 days and lockdown, and you're competing in such a unique environment. You were with the team all 65 days before hoisting the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. What sort of mental hurdles did you face in the bubble with the athletes, and how did you prepare for something that none of you had ever experienced before in your lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things in society right now, like there's not a lot of roadmaps that we have here's how we get through this pandemic. And while our athletes had certain skills for dealing with what they were dealing with, it was definitely a new context. I think a couple of the unique parts are, number one, yes, away from family, away from friends, away from community for 65 days is certainly difficult. And we had to adjust to that. I think the other piece, because everything was so condensed, is that it was 65 straight days of work. Like you're going to take a day off, but you're in a hotel, and you can't go anywhere or do anything. Is it really a day off? And I guess, I think our athletes had more to cope with than what they normally would in terms of, mask protocols and testing protocols and constantly being on. But they also didn't have those regular distractions or places to go and recharge and stop thinking about hockey and get out of the routine. They couldn't go to the beach. They couldn't go to a favorite restaurant with their partner. They couldn't play with their little one in the pool for a couple of hours and forget that hockey existed, because there were bumps along the way to that Stanley Cup. And so it was constantly being on. And I guess one of the things that I observed is, if the battery is normally at full charge each day when you wake up, the battery wasn't getting fully charged anymore. And so we had to put in some ways of coping with those things to come along with it. I think it was hard as well, just the monotony. And yes, it's monotony in 4 and 5 star hotels. Like I know that it's not the worst place to be stuck. But having said that, it's game every second night. The schedule starts to look the same. It's the same walk. It's the same weather. It's the same meals. It's the same meal room. It's the same people. Like I consider myself to be a positive guy to be around, but after 60 straight days with the sports psych, it's uncle, get me out of here. So, I think we had to adjust to those types of things. So how do we keep family involved? How do we stay connected to that? So, Liz Koharski and Ryan Bellick, and then our management group. And then I work with them a little bit in terms of how to support our families so that our families feel connected, they feel important. And we really believe that if our families felt happy about what was going on, it would be easier for them to support their partners who were in the bubble. And then our families found ways to send in videos and to share, how they were cheering and how they were supporting, and messages of good luck and updates from home. And so we were able to share that stuff with our players. And, my experience was when things were great at home and I was missing out on positive things, I was okay. It was like, yeah, things are fine. It was when things weren't okay at home for myself or for others where it was a little bit more difficult. We did other things to break up the monotony, from different team building activities, from playing bocce to wiffle ball to, playing all sorts of pickup games outside because it was the middle of summer. Lots of that was happening. And card games and things like that. We had a library of books that I put together. Each round of the playoffs, we would give out it sounds so cheesy, but it felt so important at the time, like different things for their rooms, whether it be picture frames or whether it be new types of soaps and body washes. And as trivial as it sounds, the same shampoo, the same smell every single day. It just got old. So we were trying to do those different things. And then we would have regular meetings where we talk about this stuff as a group and where we talk about it as one-on-one. I'd have one-on-one meetings with the players as well. And I have to say that our staff, our coaches and our training staff and our equipment staff and management group, we're all pulling on the rope the same way to make it as positive as possible for the players. So that's a bit of it. I guess the last piece is we spoke about values a lot too. And values that we identified were that of sacrifice. You know, we're going to have to make some sacrifices, but when you looked around, we were all making the same sacrifice for the same purpose, and that built up a sense of brotherhood or community. We talked about resilience, and you know, as stressful as things might become at times, resilience is making a positive adjustment to those stressors as they came. And the other thing we talked about was gratitude. You know, we're kind of reminded of what's wrong or what's different every day, and this applies to our regular lives. Like, you see a mask, you're reminded of the pandemic. You have to test, you're reminded of the pandemic. You turn on the news, you're reminded of things. Maybe you're hitting financial difficulties. You know, you're just always reminded of it. And so it's easy to despair because there's a lot of cues for it. So we talk a lot about gratitude, like what's beneath the surface. Why are we lucky to be here while we're pursuing our goals? We have a chance to pursue our dreams and look at the relationships we still have and get to build with our group. So those messages and values, I think, were important for us, especially early on as we were acclimating to the challenge.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, too, the monotony of it all is one of the more challenging things that I think not just the athletes, but everybody had to deal with during COVID-19. You gave some excellent examples of different ways that you were able to keep the players motivated. And I think it's fair to say, Ryan, that part of your job is just to build a winning mentality amongst these players using some of those keys that you talked about: resiliency, gratitude, sacrifice. In what ways do you think some of those winning mentality attributes can apply to fans and people who aren't necessarily athletes? What practices would you tell them to do at home, just so that they can find ways to overcome the challenges that you guys face to some degree, but on a much larger scale at times because of the environment?
Yeah, you know, I think having coping skills right now is incredibly important. It always has been, but I think it's more important because we have this major chronic stressor in our lives, and we're just not used to having it. And if I think about our stress hardware, if you will, like, as human beings, we're built to deal with acute stress, meaning something that comes on and I've got to fight or flight, and I've got to fight this, I got to deal with this thing for a short period of time. And so our stress hardware is all around seeing a threat, dealing with the threat, and then it being gone. And so that works great when we have to, you know, we're in a car accident and we have to survive, or that works great when we're running away from a grizzly bear in the woods. But it doesn't work so great when the stressor doesn't really resolve itself each day. So, and our players are incredibly good. When's the game? When's the puck drop? Forget about the rest of the universe. I am going to be my best now. Like, our players are really good at that, but less acquainted with these kind of chronic stressors that are just there. There's no clear endpoint. So we work on different skills to help with that. It might surprise some of our fans to know that meditation is a big part of what our players do. And it's not that every player is meditating regularly, but a lot of our players do meditate regularly. We support it with different mindfulness meditation apps. And so, well, why would somebody meditate? Why would somebody engage in a mindfulness meditation practice? It's a little bit about, I think about, to go back to the battery analogy, when we sleep, we sort of charge the battery, but when we meditate, we do the same thing, just in a smaller little dose. It's kind of like if you're going through the day with your cell phone and the battery's getting low and you get like a 15-minute charge somewhere, it's just enough to get the phone through the day. And we're kind of the same way. And so by focusing on our breathing, focusing on our bodies, and being present, we take ourselves out of that cycle of things we need to worry about in the future, or that cycle of being stuck in things that weren't so great in the past. And so practicing being present actually gives our brain a break, and we actually get better at that skill. So we engage in things like that, and other non-sleep deep rest is what we call it. So whether that's a yoga practice or things like that, provide these breaks for the brain. And so if we can carve out time in our lives, and I know everybody's like, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this meditation. Like, I wish I had more time for meditation. Meditation makes us more efficient, makes us more well when we're taking on all those other busy things that we need to do. So that is certainly a part of it. I benefit immensely from keeping a gratitude journal. We were speaking a bit previously, Caley, about, I've been home with my family for 6 weeks in the last 4 months. And I consider myself a family guy. I don't know what my family considers me to be right now, but I consider family to be, so important in my life. And so I'm away, I've done so many quarantines and self-isolations, and I've been locked in hotel rooms, and I've done all of that. It's easy to despair. I keep this book. I have this nice book. It's my ideas book where I write down ideas, but it's also a place where I write down things I'm grateful for every day. So it's at the end of the day, I think and reflect on, well, what's something I'm proud of? What's something that I'm really thankful that I have in my life? What's something great that's happened today, even amidst all the struggles and challenges? What does that do? Am I just tricking myself? Am I just lying to myself? No, I'm trying to bring that balance to my life. I think we're overly stressed because there's so much change and frustration and uncertainty in our lives. And so those things hit us all the time. But if we take the time and dig just beneath the surface, there are those things to still be thankful for and grateful for, and to engage with them is to be a bit more mentally well. So those are a couple of things that our players do, a couple of things that I do in my own life to help manage the load of the things that we face.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for the incredible insight, the advice. I think the first thing I'm going to do after this interview is go buy a gratitude journal and try to meditate.
All right. There's no such thing as trying, Caley. There's only doing and not doing.
I love it. Is that Master Yoda or is that you?
I have to cite Yoda.
Love it. All right. Well, I'm excited to practice everything that we've talked about today. Ryan, thank you so much for everything. It was incredible. And we're hoping a lot of fans can take all of the advice that you've been given in this interview and really make a difference in their own lives to kind of continue to further the practices and everything during Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah, and Caley, thank you so much for bringing light and attention to the issues. I think sometimes our mental health is something we take for granted, but it's something that we can work on. And you asking these questions, great questions, sort of shines that light on that in a way that I think will be helpful for people.
Thanks, Ryan. Very well said. Well, best of luck to you and your family, and we hope to connect with you again in the near future.
Sounds great, Caley.
All right. Take care, Ryan.
Take care. Bye.